Fire from the... It started with silence. No warning. No declaration. No lights in the sky like the movies promised. Just a sudden, awful stillness. Then the atmosphere cracked. High above Earth, the first of the Zorvax Dominion's assault ships pierced through orbit, blacking out satellites and frying communication grids in seconds. By the time anyone realized what was happening, it was already too late. Staff Sergeant Maria Chen had just finished her morning patrol at the NATO base near Krakow. She barely had time to register the emergency klaxons when the sky lit up like a furnace. A blinding beam of white-blue energy sliced through the command tower, vaporizing it and half the barracks. The shockwave hurled Maria across the gravel like a rag doll. She woke with blood trickling down her forehead, smoke curling in the sky, and screams echoing through the wreckage. "Chen, you with me?" Corporal Dima's voice rasped nearby. He limped into view, clutching a rifle and missing his helmet. "I'm here," Maria grunted, grabbing her sidearm and pushing herself upright. Around them, survivors staggered from the rubble, shell-shocked, burned, coughing through the dust. The sky above was filled with monstrous ships. Matte black holes shaped like daggers hovered low, their undersides glowing with searing plasma vents. Smaller craft zipped through the smoke, dropping drones and deploying soldiers, tall, insectoid beings encased in chitinous armor, eyes glowing like dying embers. The Zorvax had come. Maria rallied who she could. Dima, a few other soldiers, 2 medics, and even a terrified mechanic with a tool belt and an old shotgun. They took cover in the remains of an armored vehicle bay. "We've got incoming," Dima warned, pointing to a patrol of 3 Zorvax troopers advancing through the smoke. Maria didn't hesitate. "We ambush them. Aim for the joints. Move fast." It wasn't a Fey fight. But then, humans never fought Fey. They used every dirty trick in the book: flashbangs, improvised explosives, a welding torch-turned flamethrower. The Zorvax fell, one by one, confused by the chaos and ferocity of the counterattack. When it was over, Maria knelt beside the last alien corpse, chest heaving. She picked up its weapon, a heavy plasma rifle, and handed it to the mechanic. "Think you can figure this out?" He blinked, then nodded grimly. "Give me time." That night, they moved into the woods, regrouping. The world they knew was gone. The internet was dead. Cities were burning. Governments silenced. But small groups like Maria's were still alive and angry. She stayed up at the sky. The Zorvax ships hovered, arrogant and slow, assuming the worst was over. "They think we'll roll over," she muttered. "They don't know what they just woke up." Corporal Dima looked at her, face smudged and eyes blazing. "So what do we do now, Sergeant?" Maria loaded the stolen plasma rifle and looked toward the horizon. "We fight. Like hell. Death World Resistance." 2 weeks after the invasion, Earth didn't look like Earth anymore. The cities were ash and glass. Highways lay broken, littered with abandoned vehicles and burnt-out tanks. The skies were still patrolled by Zorvax gunships, but they no longer fired blindly. Now, they hunted. But the humans hunted back. Staff Sergeant Maria Chen crouched behind a crumbling highway pillar on the outskirts of Dresden. Her team, 12 strong, though not all soldiers, waited in the shadows. A Zorvax patrol was moving down the shattered road. 5 armored troopers, a scanning drone, and a floating supply hauler humming softly above the pavement. "Patrol pattern confirmed. Drones on a 30-second sweep," whispered Harish, a former systems engineer turned resistance hacker. He tapped into the Zorvax frequency using a handheld rig made from a modified satellite phone and an alien comm link ripped from a fallen enemy officer. Maria nodded once. "On my mark." The moment the drone's eye swept past, the team moved. Quiet as ghosts, they circled behind the patrol. A makeshift IED, scrap metal packed with thermite and pressure triggers, exploded beneath the supply hauler, shredding it in a fireball. Before the aliens could react, Maria's squad opened fire. Bullets, energy blasts, and Molotov struck from every direction. It wasn't clean. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. Minutes later, the road was silent again, the patrol reduced to smoldering corpses and burning debris. "We need to move," said Lena, a high school chemistry teacher who now carried 2 pistols and made homemade explosives with a backpack full of fertilizer and rage. There'll be reinforcements. Strip what you can, then fall back, Maria ordered. As the team scavenged batteries, weapons, and Zorvax armor shards, Maria checked the latest resistance broadcasts. Messages had to be passed through hidden repeaters, old ham radio stations, or scribbled notes carried by runners. High-tech signals were tracked in seconds. Low-tech was what kept the resistance alive. A message flickered through on the encrypted channel. Nova Station raid success. Purifier schematics acquired. Global priority. Rendezvous in 72 hours. Maria's jaw tightened. The aliens weren't just invading. They were terraforming. They're trying to convert the atmosphere, she said aloud. Make Earth uninhabitable for us. Dima cursed. So they don't just want our land. They want us gone. No, Maria said, standing tall. They want us extinct. The mission was clear now. They weren't just fighting to survive. They were fighting for the right to exist on their own planet. That night, as they disappeared into the ruins, Maria looked at her ragtag team. Soldiers, civilians, engineers, medics, students, and saw what the Zorvax had underestimated. They hadn't invaded a helpless world. They'd landed on a death world, and the death world was fighting back. Hell unleashed. Rain pounded the jungle canopy as Maria's boots sank into the soaked earth. The Amazon had always been untamed, but now it was war-torn. Somewhere ahead, buried deep within the rainforest, the Zorvax purifier pulsed like a wound in the earth. If it activated, Earth's atmosphere would begin changing. Temperature shifts, oxygen depletion, nitrogen conversion. Within months, humans wouldn't be able to breathe. Last check, Maria whispered into her comm. Teams Alpha through Delta, report. Alpha in position. Delta's ready. Beta here. We've got eyes on the southern power station. Gamma's moving into the eastern corridor. They had assembled from all corners of the globe, resistance fighters from Brazil, Mexico, Nigeria, Poland, and the scattered remnants of Earth's militaries. Maria's unit had traveled 3,000 kilometers to be here, fighting tooth and nail through alien-occupied zones, each mile earned with blood. Maria crouched behind a fallen tree, the purifier finally in view. It was massive, a black spire of humming metal wrapped in coils of green light, surrounded by alien platforms and guarded by squads of Zorvax elites. Towers buzzed with shield energy. Drones patrolled in lazy circles. EMP spike going up, said Harish. He tapped a cracked tablet linked to a jury-rigged fusion battery. A second later, a shriek of blue static raced through the air. Alien shields flickered, failed. Go! Maria shouted. Hell broke loose. From every side, humans surged out of the jungle. Homemade rockets screamed through the trees. Explosives ripped apart alien barricades. Fighters wielding scavenged plasma rifles poured fire into Zorvax squads. It was chaos, hot, brutal, unforgiving. Maria's team pressed toward the main reactor, dodging blasts, ducking behind rocks and roots. Dima took a hit to the leg but kept firing. Lena lobbed a cluster of pipe bombs into a Zorvax turret nest, silencing it in a plume of fire and metal. They reached the base of the purifier. The core pulsed with green light, protected by a wall of alien steel. This is it, Maria shouted. Plant the charges. While Harish and the mechanic worked, an alien commander dropped from above, flanked by 2 war drones. The Zorvax roared, something guttural and defiant. Maria roared back. She charged, drawing an alien blade she'd claimed in Dresden. Sparks flew as metal clashed. The Zorvax was stronger, faster, but Maria was human. She was desperate, furious, exhausted, and unstoppable. With a scream, she drove the blade into the commander's neck. It staggered, twitched, and collapsed. Charges set. Harish called. Timer, 60 seconds. The retreat was frantic. As they scrambled through the brush, the purifier detonated. A green-white fireball swallowed the structure, tearing it apart and blasting trees for hundreds of meters. The sky turned dark with smoke. Maria coughed through the ash, barely standing. Dima was wounded, 3 others were dead, but the purifier was gone. They had struck a blow, not just against the Zorvax, but for every human left alive. And for the first time, the aliens bled. The day we made them bleed. The sky over Geneva was no longer alien. For the first time in weeks, the Zorvax fleet was retreating. Their warships, once symbols of absolute control, now moved with hesitation, scarred, trailing smoke, some breaking apart as they fled Earth's upper atmosphere. Maria stood atop the cracked steps of the old UN building, rifle slung across her back, watching the spectacle unfold. Around her, fires still smoldered, and the air reeked of smoke and ozone. But amidst the ruins, humanity stood tall. They had done it. News from every continent had flooded in after the Purifier's destruction. Zorvax forces routed in Johannesburg. An underground strike team in Seoul disabled an orbital jammer using homemade rockets. In Cairo, a group of teenagers hacked a landing pad's control tower and crash-landed 2 dropships. Earth had united, not under flags or politics, but under one shared instinct, survival. Maria limped through the field hospital tent, checking on the wounded. Dima lay on a stretcher, leg bandaged, a lopsided grin on his face. "They are running," he said, voice hoarse. "Didn't think I'd live to see it." "You almost didn't," Maria replied, managing a weary smile. Outside, the resistance flag flew, stitched from salvaged uniforms, draped across the husk of a ruined alien scout walker. Scattered survivors gathered below it. Not soldiers, not civilians, just humans. Rebuilding. A message crackled over Harish's salvaged comrade. Zorvax High Command broadcasts a formal withdrawal. Full extraction in progress. Earth marked as non-viable. Hostile species status confirmed. Maria exhaled. Non-viable. They'd scared them off. Not with superior weapons. Not with advanced technology. But with stubbornness. Rage. Unity. Humanity. The Zorvax had expected conquest. What they found was resistance like they'd never known. Unpredictable, relentless, and deeply personal. Maria stepped out into the ruins as the last of the enemy ships vanished into the upper sky. Rain began to fall, gentle and cold. Children danced in puddles where ash once lay. Old men passed around loaves of bread. Someone played a broken guitar. It wasn't peace yet, but it was something close. A young fighter approached Maria, barely 20, uniforms stitched together from 3 different nations. "What now, Sergeant?" Maria looked up at the dark, clearing sky. "Now, we rebuild, and we remember." She turned, gaze hardening, "because they'll remember this planet. And if they ever come back." She picked up her plasma rifle, still caked in jungle mud and alien blood. "We'll fight like hell. Again." Final line. They invaded Earth. Humanity fought like hell. And we won.